It's 6 a.m. You wake up, roll over, and scroll TikTok for 5 habits that made me a millionaire. Meditation, cold showers, journaling. You like. You save. You do none. Why? Because deep down, you're tired of collecting routines. What you want is change, real, uncomfortable, permanent change. We live in a world obsessed with systems, checklists, and daily streaks. James Clear's Atomic Habits promised us the formula. Tiny habits, big results. But what if the ancients had a different answer? What if instead of optimization, the Stoics gave us transformation? This isn't just self-improvement versus ancient philosophy. This is a battle. Comfort versus character. Hacks versus hardship. Atomic habits versus ancient Stoics. The rise of atomic habits. In 2018, a quiet revolution took over the self-help world. It didn't scream with raw motivation or flood you with grind harder slogans. Instead, it whispered something subtle but powerful. If you want to change your life, don't aim for the life. Start with your habits. That revolution had a name. Atomic Habits by James Clear. The book didn't just become popular. It became a blueprint for anyone trying to upgrade their life without relying on sheer willpower. James Clear took a scientific, psychological, and behavioral approach to habit formation and broke it down into a system that felt simple, actionable, and, most of all, doable. He called it the compound effect of tiny changes. The idea? If you get 1% better every day, that small improvement will compound over time into remarkable transformation. Instead of chasing massive breakthroughs, Clear argued that we should fall in love with the small. Reading 1 page, doing 5 push-ups, meditating for 1 minute. Small enough to do, consistent enough to matter. Clear's system was built around 4 laws. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it satisfying. Sounds simple, right? That was the genius of it. The whole process felt less like self-discipline and more like lifestyle design. He taught us how to shape our environment so good habits became the default, not the exception. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on the counter. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow. Don't fight your brain. Work with it. He also tackled the enemy of progress, identity conflict. Most people fail, he said, because they try to change their behavior without changing their self-image. Instead of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, you say, I'm not a smoker. Identity first. Behavior second. The habit reinforces the identity, and the identity reinforces the habit. Millions of people resonated with this. Why? Because it gave them control. It didn't demand perfection. It offered strategy. In a world full of chaos, Atomic Habits felt like order. It removed guilt from failure. If you missed 1 day, it was fine. Just don't miss 2. But here's where the cracks begin to show. You can build habits. You can layer systems. You can master routines. But then life throws a punch. You lose your job, get dumped, move cities, fall into depression. Suddenly, your perfectly designed system collapses. The cues are gone. The rewards vanish. The ease disappears. And now you're face to face with a real challenge. Not behavior, but adversity. Not systems, but suffering. This is where Atomic Habits quietly hands the baton off to something older, harsher, more durable. Because as good as Clear system is for building structure, it doesn't prepare you for destruction. And that's where the ancient Stoics enter. But before we go there, we have to respect this. Atomic Habits gave people a foundation. It helped thousands, maybe millions, break the paralysis of perfectionism. It made getting better feel approachable again. It showed us that progress isn't about motivation. It's about momentum. And if that's where you are, needing a spark, needing structure, Atomic Habits might be exactly what you need. But if you're at war with something deeper, like fear, loss, anger, or meaninglessness, then tiny habits won't save you. Because building routines is easy when life is stable. But what builds you when everything falls apart? That's a different kind of philosophy. That's where we look to the Stoics. Enter the Stoics, philosophy as fire. Now, let's rewind the clock. Not by years, but by centuries. Back before smartphones, before books, before productivity hacks. Back to a time when life wasn't optimized. It was endured. Picture ancient Rome. The streets smell of sweat and smoke. The empire is powerful, but life is fragile. Plague, war, betrayal, exile. Chaos isn't the exception. It's the rule. And in the middle of this chaos, we meet a man sitting in silence. He's not a king, though he governs an empire. He's not a priest, though his words feel sacred. His name is Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, a Stoic philosopher, and the last person you'd expect to write a journal of vulnerability and moral reflection. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't trying to build habits. He was trying to build himself, to train his soul against everything he couldn't control. He wrote, not to publish, but to survive. His private journal, later titled Meditations, is one of the greatest personal development books ever written. And it's brutally honest. Marcus didn't talk about streaks or cues or dopamine. He talked about death, discipline, and the daily war with the self. Every morning, he reminded himself that people would be selfish, cruel, and annoying, and it was his job to remain virtuous anyway. This wasn't behavior change. It was soul warfare. The Stoics, Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus, didn't believe in chasing happiness. They believed in earning peace. Through suffering, through control of desire, through radical self-honesty. Where Atomic Habits tells you to make change easy, Epictetus would laugh and say, why would you want it to be easy? If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He was born a slave, crippled, abused, and yet he became one of the wisest philosophers in history. How? Because he understood one thing. You cannot control the world, but you can control yourself. While modern systems focus on external triggers, the Stoics were focused on internal mastery. There are no habit trackers in Stoicism, no 2-minute rule, no optimization. Just this, you are going to die. So live rightly. Seneca, a wealthy Roman senator, once said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. He practiced poverty once a month, slept on the floor, ate stale bread, not because he had to, but because he wanted to remove the fear of losing comfort. That's not a hack. That's hardcore. This wasn't about stacking positive routines. It was about becoming anti-fragile. The Stoics weren't trying to avoid pain. They were training for it. Think about that. Today, we try to feel good so we can perform well. The Stoics flipped it. They performed well so they could feel at peace no matter what came. It's not that they didn't care about structure. They just believed that structure means nothing if the soul is undisciplined. Marcus didn't journal for productivity. He journaled for clarity, to remind himself that emperors die. Fortune fades, but virtue? That's immortal. And this is where the Stoic philosophy burns brighter than any habit loop. In the furnace of failure, loss, heartbreak, uncertainty. When your systems collapse, what remains? The answer, according to the Stoics, you. Not your journal, not your apps, not your morning routine. Just the core of your character, tempered by trials, not tools. This is what makes Stoicism timeless. It's not a technique. It's a way of being. It doesn't adapt to your life. It shapes your life. Because it's not about being more productive. It's about being more powerful in the face of pain, doubt, and death. So if you're tired of habits that don't hold under pressure, maybe it's time to stop stacking routines and start forging resilience. Because while atomic habits build systems, Stoicism builds you. Systems versus soul. Here's where the real conflict begins. On one side, we have atomic habits, elegant, modern, and behaviorally precise. A playbook for those who want to sculpt their life like an engineer building a machine. On the other side, we have Stoicism, raw, ancient, and forged in fire. A philosophy built not to optimize your calendar, but to steal your soul. So which one really works? It depends on what you mean by works. Because now we're entering the most critical question in all of self-improvement. Are you trying to build a better routine or a better human being? Let's get brutally honest. Atomic Habits helps you quit smoking, start reading, go to the gym, or drink more water. And all of that is good. It improves the surface of your life, your environment, your behavior, your time. But it doesn't always reach the core. Your identity, your values, your resilience. James Clear teaches us to build habits by attaching them to things we already do. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Or, after I pour my morning coffee, I'll do 10 push-ups. That's effective, but it's also fragile. Because what happens when you're not home? When your routine breaks? When your coffee machine dies? Or your morning gets hijacked by a crying baby, or a medical emergency, or a heartbreak? Most systems don't survive real life, because systems are built for stability, and life is anything but stable. That's where Stoicism enters like a hammer. Stoicism doesn't rely on environment. It doesn't depend on routine. It trains you to carry your discipline, your peace, and your purpose inside you, always. Think of it like this. Atomic Habits is the software. Stoicism is the operating system. The software can help you work faster. But when the whole machine crashes, only the operating system can reboot it. Stoicism teaches you to endure what you can't control, to let go of what doesn't matter, and to act with virtue no matter the outcome. You don't need an app for that. You need a spine. And here's the key difference. Atomic Habits wants you to feel good doing the right thing. Stoicism wants you to do the right thing, even when it feels awful. You see, modern self-help often focuses on making things easier, frictionless, seamless, satisfying. It's built on the assumption that if something feels good, we're more likely to repeat it. True, but not always useful, because some of the most important things in life, grief, patience, forgiveness, humility, never feel good. You can't habit stack your way into being a better parent during a family crisis, or find peace in the middle of a betrayal. At some point, life demands more than systems. It demands soul. Now, that doesn't mean habits are useless. In fact, they're critical. But they're just the scaffolding. What matters is what you're building underneath. And this is where most people get stuck. They build habits, but forget to ask, why? They chase productivity, but ignore character. They optimize, but never reflect. Seneca once said, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. That's a soul-level warning. You can have perfect habits and still waste your life, if you never align them with what truly matters. So here's the truth. If you're trying to build a productive life, Atomic Habits is the perfect tool. But if you're trying to build a meaningful life, you need Stoicism in your bloodstream. Because when everything falls apart, when your schedule breaks, when your motivation vanishes, when tragedy strikes, the only thing that matters is the character you've cultivated. And no habit tracker can give you that. Only discipline, only reflection, only fire, only philosophy. The truth about discipline. Let's talk about the word that gets thrown around the most in self-help, discipline. Everyone wants it. Few understand it. Fewer still live it. Most people think discipline means forcing yourself to do what you don't want to do. And in part, they're right. But what if I told you that the way modern self-help defines discipline is actually shallow? Let's look at how Atomic Habits approaches discipline. James Clear doesn't glorify grit or pain. He designs discipline around ease. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. It's brilliant, because the less friction you face, the more likely you are to follow through. This version of discipline isn't about iron will. It's about intelligent design. But here's the shadow side of that. What happens when ease isn't an option? When it's not easy, when it's not attractive, when it's not satisfying? Not even a little. Because sometimes real life demands the opposite of convenience. Sometimes you have to wake up in pain, show up heartbroken, or stand alone in your values. And that's when we turn to the Stoics. For the Stoics, discipline wasn't a trick. It wasn't a tool. It was a virtue, a way of life. Epictetus, the crippled philosopher slave, once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." He didn't mean show your morning routine. He meant suffer with strength, endure without complaint, hold the line, no matter what. That's discipline. Not just doing what's easy, or even what's hard, but doing what's right, even when everything inside you screams not to. Marcus Aurelius woke up every morning and reminded himself, "You're going to meet liars, egoists, cowards, hypocrites, and you still have to act justly." That wasn't motivational fluff. That was survival. This kind of discipline isn't pretty. It's not designed for social media. It doesn't sparkle. It bleeds. But it lasts. And here's the truth no one tells you. Real discipline doesn't rely on your mood. In fact, it ignores it. In the modern world, we're taught to ask, "How do I feel?" The Stoics would say, "So what?" They didn't believe your feelings were irrelevant. They just believed your duty was more important. They didn't wake up and check if they felt like doing hard things. They just did them, because their identity wasn't built on motivation. It was built on principle. Now ask yourself, is your discipline based on how you feel, or what you've committed to? That's the dividing line between modern self-improvement and ancient Stoicism. Modern advice says, design your habits to match your energy. Stoicism says, build your energy to match your obligations. Modern self-help asks, how can I make this easier? Stoicism asks, how can I become stronger? Because the Stoics weren't trying to make life easier. They were trying to make themselves unbreakable. And if you've ever felt like you lack discipline, maybe the problem isn't that you're lazy. Maybe the problem is that your discipline is built on convenience, not conviction. That's why you stick to your diet until a bad day hits. Why you journal until you're overwhelmed. Why you meditate until you feel anxious. Your habits are only as strong as your philosophy. The Stoics built a discipline that didn't collapse under suffering. They didn't rely on streaks or streak apps. They relied on something deeper, clarity of purpose. Because once you know what you stand for, what you're here to do, discipline is no longer a burden. It's a form of love. Not love for the task, but love for the person you're becoming. And that's the ultimate difference. Modern discipline is about optimization. Stoic discipline is about transformation. So if you're tired of trying to feel motivated, maybe it's time to stop chasing comfort and start chasing character. Because true discipline doesn't serve your feelings. It serves your freedom. Which one should you follow? Now that we've walked through both worlds, the structured brilliance of Atomic Habits and the soul-forging fire of Stoicism, we come to the question that echoes in every ambitious mind. Which one should you follow? And here's the real answer. Not the polished one, Not the one that fits into a 60-second TikTok, but the one that actually holds up when your life hits the wall. You need both, but not equally. Let me explain. Atomic Habits is like a well-crafted sword. Sharp, efficient, purpose-built. It helps you cut through distractions, build momentum, stay consistent. But a sword is only as powerful as the hand that wields it. That's where Stoicism comes in. Because Stoicism forges the warrior. You can build perfect habits and still fall apart when life breaks you, unless you've trained the soul beneath those habits. And that's what most self-improvement misses. It stacks routines, but it never strengthens resolve. Let's break it down. Atomic Habits will help you wake up earlier, help you eat better, help you stay focused. But Stoicism will help you endure heartbreak, help you face death, help you hold your values when no one's watching. Habits are what you do. Philosophy is who you are. And in the end, who you are always wins. You can journal every morning, meditate at 6 a.m., hit the gym, eat clean, and still collapse when life throws you a storm. Because what matters in the storm isn't your streak. It's your spine. And your spine is forged by suffering, by choices that aren't easy, by acting with virtue when it would be easier to walk away. That's the power of Stoicism. It doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. So if you want to create real change, not temporary motivation, not fleeting streaks, but lasting transformation, here's what you do. Start with habits. Grow with philosophy. Use atomic habits to clean up the surface. Organize your day. Eliminate distractions. Build momentum. Then, root yourself in Stoicism. Reflect daily. Embrace discomfort. Train yourself to be calm in chaos, grounded in loss, strong in uncertainty. Because when your system fails, Stoicism stands. When your planner burns, your soul remains. When you lose everything you can measure, what you are becomes everything that matters. And here's the most important truth. Atomic Habits makes you effective. Stoicism makes you invincible. You don't need a million habits. You need a few, anchored by meaning. You don't need to chase motivation. You need to live by principles. So which should you follow? Follow the one that works for the moment. Use habits when you need direction. Use philosophy when you need depth. But never forget, tools help you live. Virtue helps you live well. And when it all falls apart, because one day it will, you won't care about streaks or systems. You'll care about the strength of your soul. So start small. Build habits, but build them on the shoulders of ancient wisdom. Because when atomic habits and Stoicism work together, you don't just change your behavior. You become unshakable. Build the habit. Forge the soul. You came here asking, atomic habits versus ancient Stoics. Which one actually works? And now you know. It's not a competition. It's a combination. Because the truth is, habits shape your day, but philosophy shapes your destiny. Use atomic habits to sharpen your focus. Use Stoicism to strengthen your character. One helps you win the morning. The other helps you win in life. Now ask yourself, what are you really chasing? Productivity or purpose? Convenience or conviction? Because in the end, it's not about how many habits you built. It's about the kind of human being you became. So start today. Build one habit, something small. Something that helps you grow. Then, go deeper. Read Seneca. Reflect like Marcus. Stand firm like Epictetus. Let your habits build momentum. Let your values build your legacy. And if you found something powerful in this video, something that challenged you, something that hit a little deeper, don't keep it to yourself. Yellow circle, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Bell subscribe for more videos that don't just hype you up, they wake you up. Writing hand, drop a comment below. What's one habit you're building? And what Stoic principle will keep you going when it gets hard? Because here, we're not just building routines, we're building warriors. Stay disciplined, stay grounded, and remember, the habit is your tool, but the soul is your weapon.